I know you said obviously you love doing both, but do you feel that you sometimes do get pigeonholed too much in doing both? Like how do you see yourself working out of that a little bit? If you want to. Like I know you want to work with more DPs in particular. Like do you see a world like how do you manage doing that as you've, built a career so strong in doing both?
Yeah, I think lately the way it's been working out is when we sit down for a pitch, I
Mm,
start to get the wheels turning right away, and I mentioned it on the creative call. I talk about it with production. I see I pass on some names that I think would be really good for a project like this, and so we start making some calls, and we just talk to agents about like cost and all that sort of stuff, and does it fit within the budget, and we make sure those numbers get in. So I think that's like one practical approach that I've been really trying to
mm.
work on to manifest this idea. um, I think the other part, though, the other part of this coin is like I love it so much, so it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go of
You
the
love
control.
DPing so much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I do love like going on set and working with the crew. And, we've had
Mm.
this conversation before where I have a
Yeah.
sneaky
We talked about
suspicion
this.
that
Yeah.
the DPs are really running the set. You know what I mean? It all comes down, it's a visual medium. And so like what's
Mm.
being recorded and what is being lit and the actors are walking through the space, like it's fully a collaborative experience. It takes so many talented people to do it, but I do think
Yeah.
that technically the DP is sort of the captain of that ship,
Mm.
and the director is just their best friend
Right.
that they share
What about
secrets
what?
with.
Yes. I feel similarly in a lot of projects. Like being a DP is such a creative leadership position, and a lot of people at the end of the day are turning towards you for all of these answers. Because I don't know. I love DPing so much, and I've tried directing a little bit, and to be honest, for me, it doesn't feel the same. And I'm curious as to like, what do you love about directing?
Yeah, I think that's where I have to like split up what is directing. And
Mm,
I think when we're talking about commercials, which is something that you and I both do, directing is kind of a different. It's just a different skill. Whereas,
mm,
and you've done narrative, and I've done some narrative, like the directing there is a totally different skill as well. And I think
right.
when I say I love directing, that's what I'm talking about. I'm
That's what you love.
loving
Yeah.
the writing and the working directly with
Mm,
actors, and even documentary. I like crafting a story and going out and finding it and asking the questions, and then finding it
do you feel
together with
that,
an editor, that sort of thing.
right? That's a good point. Do you feel that on commercials, your role as a director is more to be able to capture what the client and agency needs rather than having a more, I don't want to say creative interpretation of it, but just making sure that all of your bases are covered?
Yeah, I think that's kind of exactly it. I think
Mm,
I think it's a little bit utilitarian to a degree. I
mm,
think there's obviously always some creativity that goes into it. And I think that, agencies would argue that like, hey, we chose you because we think we really love your vision. But at the end of the day, it is a lot of hand holding. It's a lot of like making sure they're happy, which in turn they're checking to make sure their clients are happy,
mm,
which I also like doing. It's fun to be like the person that can communicate between these folks and the departments on set and the DP and all that kind of stuff. I think that I think it's just a little different. It's just that you kind of hit a ceiling with creativity with commercials, because
mm,
at the end of the day, it's for
mm,
the brand. It needs to
right.
match what we've done in the past. And I know that sometimes the campaign is switching things up and we want to feel different, and that happens. Um, but it's still within a certain realm, and you can certainly be creative within that, and you can certainly have a ton of fun, and you can make
Mm.
money and have a nice
Yeah.
life. And I think it's great. I don't know how sustainable it is for somebody with creative ambition that like needs to express their inner thoughts and
Yeah, and, like,
feelings.
release all
Yeah.
of that, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
like yeah, like a CarMax commercial can only take you so far before you're like, yeah, I need to talk about my
yeah,
feelings. So,
right.
yeah,
As you've grown as a director and your confidence has obviously grown in your, your voice, how often do you find yourself pushing back against agency or client with, their notes versus how you want to create this project? Like, where does that balance lie now
that's such
for
a good
you?
question. Yeah, I think it's always a dance. I think
Mm,
to answer the question, I'm always pushing back. You, like you want to have a strong point of view as a director. You want to go into a project and go like, first off, say yes to a project that you want to do. Like, there's going to be some that you're going to do it for money, but like, you can always find a reason within yourself that like you think you're the right person for this. And so you want to
mm,
fight for yourself. You want to have the confidence to do that. And then I think like you want to be respectful and reverent of what they've created and remember that this agency has gone through God knows how many revisions
right.
to please a client. And so like to come in and just rock the boat and be like, hey, you know what? A dick joke would be good here. Sorry, can I say dick on here?
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay. Yeah, like to add that in at the last minute, they're going to be like, well, hey man, like let's talk this through. Like we get that you want to make it
Mm,
funnier in this way, but here's what we're working with, So I think like I've definitely developed more confidence to ask for the things I'd like.
mm,
But it is just an ongoing conversation and you got to be ready to back it up. So I think like if you're going to
right.
pitch an idea that
Mm,
goes a little bit off of what we've all decided to do, it's like you better have a really good idea, a really good plan, and all the solutions for when it goes wrong. Um,
mm.
Otherwise, no one's going to hear
When
you
you
out.
when you say you have to, you have an idea and you have to kind of back it up, how often are those ideas like, are you 100% confident it's going to work? Or how often are you willing, like, how am I trying to say this? How often are those ideas like 100% confident versus this might be a risk, but I'm willing to take that anyway? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I guess
Yeah.
it's a great question because I think it's always a risk. I think like,
Mm,
I mean, you do it in your own work. It's like, certainly you could go and just follow the rules and do the thing, but like, there's a
right.
reason that you and I do this for a living. We're not really
Mm,
the kind of people that like avoid risk. Um, and there's many levels of risk. There are people that jump out of airplanes, without parachutes or whatever. I don't know if people do that. uh,
Travis Pastrana?
yeah.
The he did that once, but I think he jumped out with it was like a Red Bull thing. He's actually I've seen it before. It's
And then
insane.
somebody caught him,
Somebody caught him,
like
strapped
caught
him
up to
in.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
it's
my God.
yep, it's wild.
Yeah. So, but you get my point. It's like, like it's a risk doing this for a living. And so I think like,
Mm,
if you have a good creative idea, you don't know if it's going to work out. Of course, it's like you can see if other people have tried this.
mm,
Did it work? But I think like you very quickly learn when you do this, and especially like at higher level stuff, it's like you need to shake it up sometimes. That's how like
right.
the fun happens, and it's
Yeah.
like I want to be like wide awake the night before a shoot, just like stressing hard about, is this going to work? Cause
Yeah.
it honestly makes me feel alive. It makes me feel like, oh, there's like a
Mm,
deeper purpose to what we're doing here. And,
right.
I think what ends up happening, honestly, especially on like larger budget projects, is that you try the risky version and then you have a backup plan that you're also doing at the same time,
Mm,
so that no one ends up getting upset. They still feel taken care of at the end of the day.
yeah. I want to share like a personal experience similar to what you said. I think over the past couple months, I've started to really I'm starting to find my voice as a DP in the sense that I noticed that prior, all the projects that I were doing, not all of them, most of them commercial wise. I'm like, why isn't this looking the way I want? Why isn't this feeling the way that I want? Or like, I was using the project as an excuse, like I'm not getting that creative project that I'm seeing. And I think I realized that maybe part of the problem was like me and not taking the risk or pitching new ideas and, getting a creative from a director, from an agency, and just doing the creative the way it was, drawn out. And I think over the past couple months, I've really made an effort to try to elevate anything that I've done. It could be the most mundane project, but how can I make it 5% better, 10% better? How can I pitch this new idea? And the most recent commercial I did last week, when I got brought onto the project by the director, he said, I'm hiring you because what you've been doing the past couple months, I want a younger voice. I want someone to like push me out of my comfort zone. And, hearing that from a director is a really interesting thing to hear because I'm like, okay, I will push you out of your comfort zone. And it was it after the shoot, reflecting on it, I just felt so alive. It scared me going into the project. I had huge fixtures, huge moves, all these big things that I've never done before. But I'm like, I I think I believe in what this vision is, and I hope it's gonna work. And it did. But you're right though, 100%. You feel alive. You feel so much better.
I'm so glad you shared that. And as you were saying it, I was thinking about a spot you did recently, or that's just a couple months ago. It was for maybe like an electric company or
Oh, Power Home. Yeah.
yeah, which like I don't know like how much of that was pre-pro or if it was on the day, but like such a creative, fun way to do what would normally be like a fairly mundane commercial to get those effects.
Exactly.
And like it is so dynamic, it's so kinetic, it's so fun. The camera's attached to everything that like I was just like I love that, and I was like I just love that kind of work, and I think it's like really fun to just switch it up. And of course, like that proves to me that you can do really awesome off the wall stuff, but also like it's very clear because it's all well lit that it's like, oh, if you need this to be all
Mm,
static, like I could do that too. Like I think
right.
that's just a really kudos to you because it was like the whole team. That was such a
Thanks.
cool little spot that like
Yeah, that
shouldn't be
was
as
so
cool
much
as it
fun, that
is.
project. Yeah, that was a really great project. I think the whole like